huge wingspans and that signature throat pouch they use for catching fish. But when a pelican stops traffic on the mighty Golden Gate Bridge, it's a dangerous situation, and the unlikeliest of rescues ensues. The Golden Gate Bridge is an iconic symbol of California. It's also heavily traveled. Over 100,000 cars cross every day. But one-day drivers are stopped in their tracks by a pelican.
The Golden Gate Bridge is extremely busy with traffic, so this is no place for a bird.
The bird is causing a massive traffic jam. As pedestrians gather to watch, officers from the Bridge Patrol close in. It may look odd, but it's no laughing matter. Not for the pelican and not for the police.
Rescuers not only have to worry about the bird walking into traffic, but they themselves have to be very cautious of the steady flow of traffic.
The bird is a female brown pelican. She's only about 4 months old, a baby. She appears stunned and shocked and unable or unwilling to move. She probably needs medical attention.
For a pelican to be on the Golden Gate Bridge is very unusual, and it is usually an indicator that there's something else going on within the animal.
They should stop traffic.
A Bridge Patrol officer approaches cautiously with a towel.
A towel is two things. One, it's good protection in case the bird becomes aggressive. But secondarily, with pelicans and many other bird species, if you can cover their eyes, behaviorally they tend to calm down. And so a towel is very helpful for doing that.
But with every step the rescuer takes, the pelican moves away. Cars are rolling by, and at any instant, the bird could run right in front of a moving vehicle.
This bird does not know that the rescuers are there to help her, so naturally she walks away every time the rescuers approach.
Finally, the rescuer drops the towel and gently grabs the bird by her beak and scoops her into his arms. But she starts flailing those powerful wings.
Pelicans can be very difficult to handle. They are large birds with long wings, so it's easy for a rescuer to be injured just by the bird flapping its wings. These birds are fish eaters. In addition to the pouch that they also have a very sharp beak with very sharp edges, and so serious injury could occur.
This pelican has a 7-foot wingspan, and the rescuer has his hands full carrying her to the patrol car. But he somehow manages to place her in protective custody.
Oh, he got arrested.
This pelican is rushed, first to a wildlife rehabilitation center called Wild Care, and then transferred to the International Bird Rescue Center in Fairfield, California. It's a group that rescues seabirds. Their motto is, "Every bird matters."
The main thing is to first and foremost take care of the basics, and that's taking care of dehydration, providing nutrition, and providing a safe place for the bird to rest and recover.
The center feeds and cares for the wayward pelican. She perks up, puts on weight, and a month after she shuts down the Golden Gate Bridge, rescuers decide she's healthy enough to go home.
After a successful rehabilitation, this bird is brought back to the Golden Gate Bridge area where she is returned and she can fly off and resume her life as a normal pelican.
And hopefully this time, she'll steer clear of traffic. As we just saw in this special episode, it takes resourcefulness, creativity, and lots of stamina to rescue sea animals. Just ask the professionals from SeaWorld and the many other organizations who do this work day in and day out. A little ingenuity goes a long way when it comes to saving the life of an animal in need. I'm Matt Gutman, and we'll see you next time when we go on another sea rescue.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
But to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, What You Need to Know, now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
Hours, Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu, now streaming.
National parks are incredibly safe places. A crime will happen.
My wife is cold. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident. There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now.
I was shocked.
Something's not right.
ABC News, America's #1 news source.
Today on Sea Rescue, an endangered humpback whale in Hawaiian waters is tangled in fishing gear, and heavy lines are caught in its mouth.
This is a life-threatening situation, and this whale needs help.
Brave rescuers put their own lives on the line to try to cut the whale free. But can they do it?
It is very dangerous work.
Then, a wounded harbor seal pup turns up on a San Diego beach after a close call with a predator.
It was very obvious that these were shark bite wounds.
Can the SeaWorld team help the injured seal get better and return to the ocean?
Something tried to get you, huh?
I'm Matt Gutman, and we're on a Sea Rescue. These beluga whales here at SeaWorld San Diego have peg-like teeth, which they use to feed on squid, crabs, and fish. But their larger relative, the humpback whale, has something very different in its mouth. Humpbacks are baleen whales using giant plates to filter krill and small fish from the seawater. Unfortunately, in this sea rescue, one humpback whale opens up wide and ends up with fishing gear tangled around his mouth. Fortunately, trained rescuers are there to help. Rows of souvenir shops and lively restaurants bring tourists flocking to Lahaina on the Hawaiian island of Maui. And some come here for the whale watching because right off the shores of this quaint seaside town is one of the world's most important protected whale habitats. But one day, people on a whale watching boat spot something deeply troubling in the water.
There were some tour boats in the area, and one of the boats reported a large humpback whale that was swimming next to a smaller whale, and the larger of the two whales appeared to be entangled in some fishing gear.
Humpbacks share the ocean with commercial fishermen, and unfortunately, sometimes a whale will end up with lines and floats wrapped around it. This adult male humpback is 45 feet long, weighing 40 tons, yet he's helpless in trying to free himself from the tangle of these heavy gauge lines.
It's going through its mouth, which means that he can't eat. This is a life-threatening situation, and this whale needs help.
Luckily, a team of experts trained in whale disentanglement happens to be out on a boat just a few miles away.
We were actually out on the water, at least some of the team. We were doing research that day, and we actually heard the call come in.
Ed Lyman heads the Maui-based entanglement response team for NOAA, the U.S. agency responsible for marine wildlife. They head for the area and ask whale watchers to keep an eye on the humpback so they don't lose it.
They're a needle in a very big haystack, so we can lose them very quickly.
With the help of the whale watching boat and the U.S. Coast Guard, they locate the whale and quickly transfer into a small inflatable craft called a Zodiac.
The benefit of going out in the Zodiac boats are that rescuers have the ability to get closer to the whale. They're a lot more mobile in the Zodiac boats, so it's a great advantage for rescuers.
Now they try to get close to the struggling giant so they can see how badly he's tangled up.
Ended up being an adult male humpback whale dragging a big red buoy behind it, and this was very heavy gauge line. Pretty bad entanglement. Multiple wraps, especially through the mouth and over the back. Generally speaking, the impact of a mouth entanglement, eventually they starve to death.
Rescuers approach with extreme caution. They use cameras to get a better view. His tail is 15 feet across, about the length of a pickup truck, and it's strong enough to flip this boat.
We used these small underwater cameras in a multitude of ways. In this case, we needed a better look at what was going on. We could tell there was line in the mouth that was coming out, but we needed to know how many wraps and what was involved there. So we put cameras in the water, either holding on to them, put them on the poles, reach out and put them over the whale or in the water next to the whale, figure out what is going on and how we're going to cut that whale free.
Next, Ed tosses out a grappling hook and catches the lines trailing behind the humpback so the team has something to hold on to.
We've established this working line, we've attached this line onto the whale, and we're towing behind it.
They want to slow the whale down, so next, they attach large floating buoys or kegs to the trailing lines.
Kegging is the process of adding additional buoys to the whale to slow it down and keep it at the surface long enough for rescuers to reach it.
Now they have to figure out the best way to cut those lines without getting out of the boat.
Jumping in the water is the last thing you want to do. In several cases, people have been hit by whales, cut up badly, broken bones, but it's very dangerous work. You want to stay in the boat.
And they have the perfect tool on board, a very sharp knife on a long pole.
We put a hook knife on the end of the pole, and we're kind of above the whale, trying to get to that line through the mouth and over its back.
Coming up, rescuers are giving it their all, but they just can't seem to get through the thick line, and the waves are getting bigger and bigger.
We were kind of we call it the danger zone.
Then later, a young seal narrowly escapes a violent encounter with a shark.
Something tried to get you, huh?
Can the SeaWorld rescue team get this little seal better again so he can get back home?
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source.
The ladies you love, the hottest topics happening now. There's only one place to find it all.
You guys are having the hard conversations. I love The View.
The most watched #1 daytime talk show is The View. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It was a scary time in the 70s. You had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it. Serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We've got this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
When you wake up in the morning, darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there by your side. I'll be everything you wanted. I'll be there by your side.
ABC News, honored winner of 9 Edward R. Murrow Awards, more than any other network, including winning for the 3rd straight year the award for overall excellence in television. ABC News is America's #1 news source. With so much at stake, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 newscast and the #1 program on television.
A rescue team from the Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary in Hawaii is on a mission to save a humpback whale that weighs more than a fully loaded big rig.
Imagine trying to untie a knot that is tied to a moving car. That's effectively what they're doing, and they don't even get to use their hands. They're using poles and sharp equipment on the ends of poles.
Despite the bouncing boat and the constantly moving whale, they managed to hook the knife into the line. It is a critical moment.
We were hooked on, but that line was so big around that we were unable to cut it quickly. And we were kind of we call it the danger zone. We're in a place where that whale, if it chose to, it could kick us and hit us.
They want to save the whale, but they don't want anyone to get injured, so they back off.
Not the best place to be. What if the whale responds negatively? So we decided to stand down on that maneuver. We disengaged, we backed off.
It's a big disappointment. Their first attempt to cut the line has failed. And to make matters worse, ocean conditions are getting more perilous with every passing minute.
The whale was heading from Maui towards Lanai, and as you get off towards Lanai, you can start catching what we call here the wind line, where the channels are blowing strong between the mountains. The mountains channel the wind, and as you get further away from the islands, you can be swallowed up, kind of literally, by these strong winds and, of course, choppy sea state.
The sea is now so choppy, rescuers consider giving up, but they're determined to save this whale, and they make one last attempt.
We put what we call a flying knife on the end of the pole, a knife that will come off the pole and have a line attached to it, and then we can back off and cut the whale remotely. So what we did is pull up, hook that knife on the right side, that line going through the mouth, over its back, we hooked it right here, and then got away from the whale, back away from that danger zone. And the boat's bouncing, the whale's swimming, that action cuts the rope for us.
Something certainly happened with those lines. They're all bunched together now.
We pulled hard on the other side, and it went right through the whale's mouth, out through the baleen. That's always concerned. It gets stuck in those baleen racks that are on the sides for the filter feeding, but it didn't, and our whale was entirely free.
The freed whale immediately joins up with a pod of other humpbacks and behaves like a completely normal and healthy adult male.
We were able to follow it for several hours to see how it was doing. We got some more footage holding cameras underwater to see how it looked after the fact with no gear on it. We also took a skin sample that can tell us a little bit about its health, how it's doing, and the stress factors involved with entanglements.
And there's one final surprise. When Ed pulls up the buoy and the gear that caused the entanglement, he finds ID numbers, which lead him back to the gear's owner.
We ended up figuring out it came from Alaska. It was king crab gear set in the middle of the Bering Sea.
And get this, he's dragged that gear 2,500 miles, the distance from New York to Los Angeles, a testament to this animal's incredible strength and stamina.
This is a huge achievement for rescuers to have freed this whale from all this fishing gear. He can now eat and roam the ocean freely, and this is an endangered species that's now given a second chance.
Coming up, this little girl's been bitten by a shark.
Many of these guys actually get consumed by the shark, but there are some near misses.
She was pretty stressed.
Can the SeaWorld rescue team give her a second chance?
I know, Mama. It's scary.
It was an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do they catch her for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive? Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
It was a scary time. In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it. Serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
This is American history. A violent white mob, a brutal attack, 300 black Americans killed right here in America. Now, it is time to uncover Tulsa's buried truth. The gripping story brought to light in a new podcast from ABC News. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
When you wake up in the morning, darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there by your side. I'll be everything you wanted. I'll be there by your side. If you need a light to shine in, hold up your hand, let the stars shoot again, let the light shine in through the dark.
Good morning, America.
Out in the ocean, sharks are a real threat to seals. But sometimes a seal can survive an attack by one of these apex predators and turn up injured on a beach like this. In this sea rescue, a young seal turns up with a shark bite wound here in San Diego, and fortunately, the SeaWorld team is there to help. This is Children's Pool, originally built here in La Jolla, California for children and their families, but it's since become the domain of seals and pelicans and all sorts of wildlife, which is one reason it has become such a tourist attraction. This is a prime viewing spot for folks to come out and see harbor seals hauling out and basking in the sun. But sometimes, folks who come here and look at the seals will find an injured one and call it in. And it's one of these calls that brings out members of the SeaWorld San Diego rescue team responding to reports of an injured pup on the beach.
There's a yearling pup that's against the seawall. Just take a look at it and maybe bring it back and get it kind of healthy again.
It was far away from the group and looked thin and in distress, so we went out there and looked at it.
Rescuers quickly see that this animal needs help. So they carefully approach with a hoop net, take the young patient into their truck, and race it back to the rescue facility. When the medical team examines the animal up close, it gets a nasty surprise. The little pup has a row of wounds on its rear flippers, and the teeth marks are unmistakable.
It was very obvious that these were shark bite wounds.
This could be very sensitive. What will happen with these injuries is the animals will stop eating and they will become debilitated. And so first order of business with any of these animals when they come in is to stabilize the patient. And that means treating dehydration, giving it some level of nutrition, certainly.
Seals get their fluids not from drinking seawater, but from the fish they eat. So if they don't eat, they won't survive.
Another half salad on that.
And it's only after the dehydration issue is addressed that the SeaWorld team begins to treat the wounds.
Hi, lady. So she has some of those linear wounds throughout her rear flippers. They look fairly fresh. They kind of lined up in an arcing position, and they were small little lacerations evenly spaced. Something tried to get you, huh?
The bite marks on her flippers aren't the only ones. She also has a wound on her side that's within inches of critical internal organs. So this little girl had a very close call.
Yeah, she got some underneath there, too. It's right on her side. She probably tried to take off, and it just clipped the back of her foot, but she got away, luckily for her.
Harbor seal pups may look adorable to humans, but to the great white sharks off the California coastline, they are prey.
Commonly, the way the sharks prey on harbor seals is they take a bite, and then they wait for the animal to become weaker, and then they come back in for their meal.
Many of these guys don't survive, and many of them actually get consumed by the shark. But there are some near misses, and then it's up to our teams to try to fix that.
Can we roll her a little bit on her side? Hi.
The doctor doesn't just look for exterior wounds, but also for internal injuries.
I want to make sure that nothing's broken, but there wasn't any palpable fractures or any broken bones that I could feel. Just gonna listen to her lungs real quick.
But when the doctor uses a stethoscope to listen to the animal's chest, she makes a troubling discovery.
She actually did have some crackles and noises going on in her lungs. Sometimes when there's puncture wounds to the chest, it can cause air to go into the chest cavity, and that makes it difficult for the lungs to inflate, so it can make it hard for her to breathe.
Coming up, the team takes x-rays to see what's going on inside this precious pup.
The shark will leave something behind in the form of a tooth and create a focus of infection internally.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
It's an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do they capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive? Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
National parks are incredibly safe places. A crime will happen.
My wife is cold and she's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident. There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is too high for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
One fascination with criminal trials, figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart they did this.
It's the time of suspicion. The ending's really tough.
You don't know when the truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.